People think that all folate works the same way in your body. It doesn't. Your body uses folate for two completely separate jobs, and you need different forms of folate to do each one. I'm Dr. Ben Lynch. For over 15 years, I've studied how folate interacts with your genes and your nervous system. Chapter 1. The two jobs folate has to do. Here's what folate actually does. Job number 1, methylation. That's the process where your body turns genes on and off, makes their neurotransmitters such as norepinephrine and melatonin, breaks down your histamine, produces creatine, and recycles a compound called homocysteine. This job is run by methylfolate. Job number 2, DNA synthesis. That's how your body builds new cells. Every time a cell divides, whether it's making blood cells, repairing your gut lining, healing a wound, growing a baby, it needs to build fresh DNA. And this job is run by folinic acid. Now here's the critical part. Your body can convert these two forms. In theory, methylfolate can cycle back through the folate pathway to become folinic acid, and folinic acid can eventually be converted into methylfolate, but neither conversion is simple. In fact, it's pretty complex and problematic. Each direction requires multiple enzymatic steps involving multiple genes like MTR, MTRR, MTHFR, and others. All have to be functioning properly, and all have to be functioning properly at the same time. If any of those genes are impaired from genetic variants or made dysfunctional by poor diet, chemicals, infections, or persistent stress, the conversion from one form of folate to another slows down or it stalls completely. And let's be pretty honest about the world we live in. Processed food, environmental chemicals, chronic stress, poor sleep, alcohol, medications, infections, these aren't rare situations. It's everyday life. The idea that your conversion pathways of folate are running perfectly in both directions all day, every day, it's not realistic. Here's what this looks like. You might be taking methylfolate and supporting methylation beautifully, while your cells are starving for the DNA building blocks that only folinic acid provides. Or you might be taking folinic acid and supporting cell growth just fine, while your methylation cycle sits idle because the conversion to methylfolate isn't happening. We must have both forms working, methylation running and DNA rebuilding. And if one form works great for you most of the time, there will be periods such as illness, recovery, stress, pregnancy, intense exercise, where your body's demands shift and the other form of folate becomes critical. When you understand what each form does, you start using the right one at the right time. That's what I'm here for. I'm giving you that ability to determine which folate you need right now. If you're coming down with something, extra folinic acid. Why? It supports the rapid immune cell production your body is demanding. Feeling worse after exercise? Extra methylfolate supports the methylation needed to recycle the homocysteine that's building up from exercise. Recovering from surgery, a sunburn, a gut flare? Folinic acid fuels the DNA synthesis, driving the tissue repair. Are you pregnant or breastfeeding? You want both forms so you can support the development of your child. Chapter 2. Why folic acid fails at both jobs. Folic acid isn't just inefficient, it actively blocks the real folate your body needs. Let me show you exactly how. Folic acid requires two enzymatic conversions before your body can even start using it. First, the DHFR enzyme converts it to dihydrofolate, then tetrahydrofolate. Then your MTHFR enzyme converts it into methylfolate. But here's the problem. The DHFR enzyme gets overwhelmed at tiny doses just above 200 micrograms of folic acid. That's in 100% of people, not some, everyone. And 40 to 60% of us have MTHFR variants that slow or block the second conversion. So when you take folic acid, especially at higher doses over 200 micrograms, much of it never gets converted. It just circulates around and around as unmetabolized folic acid. And that's where the real damage starts. Because that unmetabolized folic acid doesn't just sit there. It starts blocking your body's ability to use real folate in two critical places. The first critical place, your brain. Your brain has a security system called the blood-brain barrier. Think of it like a secure building with a very specific door that only opens for the right credentials. That door is called folate receptor alpha, and it's designed to let in only methylfolate, which is the active form your brain actually uses. Here's the problem with that. Folic acid binds to the receptor even more tightly than methylfolate does. So methylfolate cannot cross through. It tries to latch on, but the folic acid blocks the doorway. So methylfolate, the form your brain is actually waiting for, cannot get in. It's right there in your bloodstream, ready to go through the door, but the receptor is occupied by a molecule, a chemical actually, that won't budge and be transported across. Only methylfolate can freely cross the blood-brain barrier. Folic acid cannot. It just blocks the entrance. The second, your kidneys. That same receptor, folate receptor alpha, exists in your kidneys, and it has a critical job, saving your natural folate from being flushed out in the toilet. Your kidneys filter your blood constantly. Then they selectively reabsorb nutrients worth keeping, including methylfolate. Under normal conditions, folate receptor alpha grabs the methylfolate and pulls it back into your bloodstream so it doesn't get lost in the urine. But folic acid hijacks the receptor first. It binds more tightly than methylfolate, meaning it locks on and blocks your natural methylfolate from being reabsorbed. So you could be eating the spinach, the broccoli, and the lentils, and the liver every single day. You could be doing everything right. But if you're also consuming folic acid from enriched bread, enriched pasta, or supplements, your kidneys cannot efficiently save the methylfolate from your own diet. Let that sink in. Your brain can't access folate because folic acid blocks entry at the blood-brain barrier. Your kidneys can't save folate because folic acid blocks the recycling system. So you end up folate deficient even though you're consuming natural folates every single day. This is why the form of folate matters. Methylfolate and folinic acid do not create these problems. These are the forms your body recognizes and uses immediately. Methylfolate goes straight into your brain, and both forms work without blockage, without being wasted. Chapter 3, what methylfolate actually does in your body. Methylfolate isn't just better folate. It's the form that powers your brain, your mood, and your detoxification system. In a healthy person, about 80% of the folate circulating in your blood is methylfolate. It's also the primary form found in your brain. That alone tells you how critical methylfolate is. So what is it actually doing? Methylfolate powers a process called methylation. Here's how that works. Every time you eat protein or make creatine, your body produces a compound called homocysteine. Left unchecked, homocysteine is toxic. It inflames your blood vessels, drives up your risk of heart disease. So your body has to recycle the homocysteine, and fast. Methylfolate and methylcobalamin from meat, fish, eggs, or your supplements work together to convert homocysteine back into methionine, which is a useful amino acid. Methionine then becomes SAMe, your body's master activation switch for methylation. SAM powers over 200 methylation reactions in your body. It turns your genes on and off. It makes norepinephrine and melatonin. It breaks down your dopamine. It breaks down your histamine. It produces creatine for muscle and brain energy. It detoxifies heavy metals like arsenic and mercury. But none of that happens if methylfolate isn't keeping the supply chain moving. Here's where this hits your actual life, your brain chemistry. Methylfolate drives methylation, which is how your body converts serotonin and melatonin and dopamine into norepinephrine. Without enough methylfolate, these conversions stall, and your mood, your focus, and your sleep suffer. This is why roughly 1/3 of people with depression are actually folate deficient, and why they also respond poorly to antidepressants. Your muscle energy. Your body uses methyl groups to produce creatine, and creatine burns through about 40% of all your methyl groups. If you're vegetarian or vegan, you get zero creatine from food. Your body has to make all of it. That puts a massive demand on your methylfolate supply. Your histamine levels. When SAM is sufficient, your body neutralizes histamine properly. When it's not, histamine builds up, and that's when your headaches, anxiety, and insomnia show up. Your DNA. SAM adds methyl groups directly to your DNA, and that process mostly keeps your genes turned off, and that's a good thing. You don't want all your genes active. Cancer genes, inflammatory genes, autoimmune genes. You want all of those genes silent. When methylation drops, those genes can switch on. Your immune function, cancer protection, brain development, all of it depends on keeping the right genes quiet and the right genes functioning, and all of it depends on methylfolate. So that's methylfolate. It drives your brain, your mood, and your entire methylation cycle. But that's only half the story, because while methylfolate runs methylation, There's a completely different job that requires a completely different form of folate, and that's where folinic acid comes in. Chapter 4, what folinic acid actually does in your body. While methylfolate powers your brain and methylation, folinic acid is what builds every new cell in your body. Folinic acid is a form your body uses to make DNA. Every time a cell divides, whether it's making blood cells, healing a wound, repairing your gut, growing hair, or developing a baby, it needs folinic acid to build new DNA. Your body's demand for folinic acid is enormous. Your gut lining is completely replacing itself every 4 to 5 days. Your bone marrow makes about 200 billion new red blood cells every single day. Your immune system can't function without it. Folinic acid deficiency cuts white blood cell production dramatically. Your skin regenerates every 40 to 56 days. Your hair follicles are constantly dividing. For men, it takes 2 to 3 months to produce new sperm, and that entire process requires folinic acid. And during pregnancy, a fertilized egg divides every 12 to 24 hours the first week. By 8 weeks, every organ in the baby is forming. By birth, that single cell has become roughly 26 billion cells, all of that running on folinic acid. When you don't have enough, the fastest growing tissues shut down first. That's why you see mouth sores, hair loss, fatigue, anemia, poor wound healing, gut problems, and weakened immunity. And here's what's happening at the DNA level. When folinic acid drops too low, your body cannot make thymidine, one of the 4 building blocks of DNA. So instead, uracil is substituted. But uracil is an RNA building block. It's not DNA. Think of DNA as the permanent blueprint and RNA as the temporary copy. They are not meant to be swapped. Your body recognizes a mistake and it cuts the uracil out, but that creates a break in your DNA strand. In severe folate deficiency, this can cause up to 4 million DNA breaks per cell. This massively increases your cancer risk. And here's a real example of why this matters. The doctor I work with had a cancer patient who beat the disease, but she couldn't regrow her hair. She put her on methylfolate, but nothing happened. The hair wouldn't grow. I told her, switch to the folinic acid. That's the form that drives DNA synthesis and cell division. Hair follicles are some of the fastest dividing cells in your body, and they don't need more methylation support. They need DNA building blocks. The doctor made the switch, and her patient grew her hair back. That's the difference between these two forms of folate. Methylfolate powers methylation. Folinic acid builds new cells. And if you use the wrong one for the job, nothing happens no matter how much you take. Folinic acid builds and repairs your cells. Methylfolate runs your brain chemistry and helps you support detox. You need both forms doing both jobs. Let me show you why. Chapter 5, why most people need both forms. If you've been paying attention, you might be thinking, okay, I'll just pick the one I need. Methylfolate for brain and mood, folinic acid for cell repair and growth. But your body doesn't work that way. Right now, as you're watching this, your brain is using methylfolate to make neurotransmitters. At the same time, your gut lining is replacing itself right now, and that requires folinic acid. Your bone marrow right now is building new blood cells using folinic acid. Your liver is detoxifying right now using methylfolate. These aren't separate systems that take turns. They run simultaneously all day, every day for your entire life. And both of them need their own form of folate to do it. This is why taking just one form and hoping your body converts the rest is a gamble most people lose. Methylfolate for brain chemistry and methylation, folinic acid for building and repairing cells. And here's a practical sign that you might need to shift the balance. If methylfolate makes you feel wired, anxious, or headaches, that's a signal you're pushing methylation faster than your body can handle. Reducing methylfolate and adding in or increasing folinic acid lets you keep your folate support while taking some pressure off your methylation. You can't just pick one form and expect your body to handle everything. And let me show you why. Remember the cancer patient I mentioned earlier, the one who beat cancer but couldn't regrow her hair? Her doctor put her on methylfolate. Months went by, nothing happened. The doctor called me. I said, switch to folinic acid. And now you understand why. Hair follicles are some of the fastest dividing cells in your body. They don't need methylation support. They need DNA synthesis, and that's folinic acid's job. But it was more than that. The chemotherapy had likely dirtied her MTR and MTRR enzymes, which is the exact intersection where methylfolate starts converting into folinic acid. So even though she was taking methylfolate, her body couldn't turn it into the form her hair follicles actually needed. She had the folate, she just couldn't use it. It was stuck at a broken intersection. Folinic acid bypassed that blockage entirely, and as a result, her hair grew back. And this isn't just a cancer story. The same principle shows up in millions of doctors' offices every day. I call it the methotrexate mistake. Methotrexate blocks the DHFR enzyme. Folic acid cannot do anything in your body until it passes through DHFR. So when you give folic acid to someone on methotrexate, it just sits there, biologically useless, doing nothing. Meanwhile, the whole reason the doctor prescribed folic acid was to help the patient rebuild platelets and blood cells. But if the doctor gave folinic acid, it's already activated. It doesn't need DHFR. You give it, it works. The patient actually builds the blood cells and the platelets the doctor wanted to in the first place. And folinic acid is readily available, it's affordable, and millions of patients are being handed a form of folate, folic acid, their body literally cannot use because of the very drug they're taking that the doctors prescribed. Why you can't always rely on conversion between the forms. Now in theory, your body can convert methylfolate into folinic acid and folinic acid into methylfolate. And for some people, that works just fine. If you're taking one form and feeling great overall, your energy's good, your mood's stable, recovery is solid, that's a sign that your folate conversion is working. But if you're taking one form of folate and something still feels off, you're not all the way there, that's a sign that the conversion is possibly stalling. Converting methylfolate into folinic acid runs through the MTR and MTRR enzyme system. That gets knocked out by low glutathione, heavy metals like mercury and lead, B12 deficiency, alcohol intake, and yeast overgrowth, infections, to name a few. Converting folinic acid into methylfolate runs through a different system, MTHFS, MTHFD1, and MTHFR. If any of those enzymes are slow, especially MTHFR, which is impaired in 40 to 60% of people, possibly you, that conversion stalls too. So both directions can break down. And for most people, at least one of them already has. This is especially important during pregnancy. Women naturally have lower glutathione levels when pregnant. That means even if you're taking plenty of methylfolate, your body may not be able to convert it into the folinic acid your baby needs for the explosive cell division happening every single day. Taking both forms during pregnancy isn't a luxury. It's insurance when the stakes couldn't be higher. So what do? If you're generally healthy, you can experiment. Take one form of folate for a week, see how you feel, and then try the other form of folate. Switch between them. Pay attention to what your body tells you, then adjust as you need. But most people do best just taking both, and a multivitamin or prenatal that contains both forms. That way you're covered no matter what. Now let me make this really practical. I'm going to put this on screen so you can screenshot it. Here's when you should reach for extra methylfolate. Here's when you need to reach for extra folinic acid. Here's when you need to take both forms of folate together, both folinic acid and methylfolate. Now you may be wondering, can you get both forms of folate from food? Absolutely. Food provides all the natural forms of folate, and you can get plenty of it. Liver is one of the richest sources. Vegetables, especially dark leafy greens, are excellent. Eggs and legumes are also great. But if you're pregnant, recovering from illness, or dealing with any of the conversion blocks I just described, supplementing with both forms gives you the extra layer of support on top of a good diet. Here's what to look for on labels. Methylfolate listed as L5-MTHF, quadrafolic, or metafolin. Folinic acid listed as 5-formyl-THF or calcium folinate. And just as important, never use folic acid. Your body has been using natural folates like methylfolate and folinic acid for over 300,000 years. Stop blocking folate with an unnatural man-made chemical version of it invented 80 years ago. If you want to understand exactly why folic acid is so problematic, I made a full breakdown for you. Watch it next.